All right, so now we're going to break down on how to play the songs. But first, I'm going to offer you a piece of advice. Let's learn these songs. I'm going to teach you how to play the rhythm and then teach you how to play over them. But what I would highly recommend that you do is you learn how to play each chord in each song 3 different ways. And let me give you an example of that. So I'm going to use, and I'm going to refer to this quite often in this series, 3 different versions of one chord. So this would be an E shape of our E chord. Right? Everybody knows that. Now, if we were to take that same shape and move it to different frets on the neck, it would become a different chord. But it's still that basic E shape. So if we pretended that we use these fingers and that we were playing a fret, in this instance it's an open E string, right? But if we scooted this up and we put our finger down, we kept that same E shape, but now we put our finger down here, kind of like a movable capo. Now that E shape actually becomes a G chord because of this top note, or what's called the root note. It's our same E shape, but now where this finger is makes it a G major chord, okay? Same thing with the A shape. If I were to put my fingers like this and hit an open A, and those 3 other strings, it would be an A chord, right? So just pretend my finger was right here on the 0 fret or the open A string. If I move this A shape up to here and I put my first finger down, right, it now becomes a C chord, but it's still that A shape. So I'm just taking those shapes of the E shape, the A shape, and the D shape of each chord. So here's E. Here's E chord, but an A shape of that chord. And then the D shape of that chord is right here on the 4th, 5th, and 4th frets of the G, B, and E string. They're all the same chord. Now, I would literally learn how to play the chord progression using each one of those shapes. So, you know, if my chord progression is this, for instance, right, I could take and do the E-shaped version of those chords all over the neck. The next chord would be C sharp minor, which is all the way up here. Here's the E minor version of that chord now. Since we are playing a minor chord, we need this shape of an E minor chord, right? We take off that major third. Right? And then we would go to each chord from that point on, doing the E-shaped version of the chord. Same thing with D. And then, you know, you would just move it whether it's a major or a minor. So a D minor shape, right, would just, you go like that, and now you have a D minor chord. Well, it works the same way. If I was at the E chord shape and I made a D minor shape, it's an E minor chord now, okay? So why I highly suggest you do that is you're going to see, if you analyze it, and I really suggest also writing down the chords and the 3 notes that make the chord. So the root, the 5th, and the 3rd, right? Those are what make a chord either an E major chord, let's say, or an E minor chord. We write those down because then we can physically see the important notes of each chord. And when we're playing over a progression, now we know what notes to hit when the E chord goes by. But if you know each version of those chords, the E, the A, and the D, you're going to be able to access those same notes all over the fretboard. So you're going to be able to do your cool riffs, but not just be stuck in one spot. You'll know that when we're playing an E major, that falls into position 1. So our A shape falls into position 1. Right? Or if we know where our D chord is, or the D version I should say, this is the E chord, then we can play out of, right? We know where some of those notes are that fall. That falls under position 4. Right? right? There's that D. So I can access my E chord there as the chord goes by. Or the E shape, which is down here, and just find out where each particular chord lies within that pentatonic position. You'll be able to play all over the neck, and you'll see the chords within those positions rather than just fishing for notes, hoping that you're hitting one of those chord tones. You'll know where every single chord is all over the neck because you have 3 different versions of each chord to choose from. Now, it takes a while to get that burned in your brain, but once you realize how the shapes fit together, right, it doesn't matter what key you're in. Everything moves together. So if you figured out like that chord progression, let's just say a 1, 4, 5, and where those chords fit in your pentatonic positions, it's going to be the same regardless of whatever 1, 4, 5 you play. All those chords are going to be in the same spot relative to the key you're playing in. So you'll be able to move everything around and still feel like, oh, okay, I learned it in one key, but it really moves around. The whole thing moves around no matter what key you're in. So you'll be able to play in any key comfortably and know where your chords are if you've memorized those 3 shapes. So I'll give you a concrete example of that, and then I'll show you how that actually works and how that'll help you play when you start to solo. Because if you know your notes, and you know those 3 versions of each chords, and you know your 5 pentatonic positions, you're going to be able to do so much more and be able to play with so much more confidence because you can play any riff, but you're going to know at least one of those notes in my riff is going to be a chord tone as that chord passes by. So if my... right, and I know my next chord... right, and that... I'm going to be able to hit an important note of each chord as it goes by, regardless of the riffs that I'm playing. I mean, I could totally jibber-jabber, right, and just hit that one note in that whole phrase of notes, and I'm like, okay, the ear resolved at least to that one E note that I played as the E chord went by. And that's how you get target notes. And that's why all the players we love sound so good, is because they know how to do that. So let's learn how to do that and learn some riffs in the process.